Hey guys, I'm going to be for the final Tony soundtrack review, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what it was. I mean, I didn't review this one yet, and I wanted to keep it for last, but without any further ado, and without any introduction, this is going to be for the soundtrack for Hamilton. Yes, I kept this one for last, and I thought it would just make sense to keep this one for last. I mean, it's the one that is the most talked about, it's the one that is the most critically acclaimed. I mean, everyone talks about it. It's been a phenomenon. I mean, I think pretty much everyone knows Hamilton. Even people that don't like musicals or don't even know what musicals are, they know what Hamilton is, at least because it's so popular. And I just felt like because of how big it was, it would just make sense to do it last. And also because this show has 45 songs, and I'm not just gonna do every song because that'd be too long of a video that I don't want to do. And I know you guys have better things to do with your time. So rather than what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the songs that I think are the best. Now, let me just say, every song on here is worth listening to. Every song on here is fantastic. I mean, I don't think there's been as big as a show as this in a while. And I know I said last year, oh, Fun Home is such a game-changing show, but not a lot of people know about the show. Everyone knows about Hamilton. And, you know, if you guys have wanted to see Hamilton, you listen to this soundtrack most likely. So you've probably heard these songs before, and you probably don't want to listen to them again. So there aren't good, and you probably do want to listen to them again, but you probably have listened to them. And because of that, I'm not just going to play previews of them. I'm probably just going to go through each song. I'm going to talk about the ones that I like the most. And basically, you know how, like, Les Mis and Ren and shows like that, they have their own, like, highlight CDs. These would be the songs for me that if they were to make a highlight CD of Hamilton, these would be the songs I put on that highlight CD. I think these are the ones that are the best. They're the ones that stand out the most to me. But let's just get into it. Starting off with the first song, the title song, Alexander Hamilton, I think is a perfect introduction to the show. It is so well done. It is such a, just in the beginning, such a big production number. And there's so much to get into just in this one song. We find out so much about him, little tidbits about him. The fact that he was a bastard orphan, the fact that he, you know, his mother died in a hurricane and everything. Just very big details. And then you meet all these different characters and you're wondering what their backgrounds are. I think it's so well done the way they do that. The harmonies here are incredible. It's definitely one of the standout tracks. It's the perfect way to start the show. I really do love it, and for me, would definitely be the first song to put on there. I mean, it's just such a great opening. Perfectly gets you into the mood of the show, and any worries you have of the show, because I know there's some people that don't like rap music, and you're like, oh, rap music and a Broadway show. I've heard people say, oh, this is not a real Broadway show because there's rap music, and I don't like it because of that. For me, it just works. It works very well in the show, and for someone that's not, like, a huge fan, that I like rap music. I don't think it's terrible. I think there's some really good rappers out there, but this works for me really, really well. I think it perfectly makes sense why they're doing that. It's totally what Lin-Manuel Miranda wanted. I think it's totally his vision, and it makes perfect sense why they do that. You perfectly into the world. I think it perfectly starts things off, and I think it's the first great song here, definitely. And then the next song would be My Shot. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard My Shot. It's one of the most overplayed songs probably in Hamilton, and I say overplayed in all the right reasons. It's such a great song, and it's also the first big song for Lin-Manuel Miranda. We totally see how he is as Hamilton. We see his courage. We see his persistence. He's not just going to stop fighting. He's going to continue. He's going to try to fight this war. He's going to try to show his, you know, how good he is at shooting and things like that. It's such a well done song. I love the way it's done. The ensemble here is great. It's a 5-minute song all about shooting, but it's so well done. I love the way they do it, and I think it's just a really great song. I think it's really, and something I love about this soundtrack that I will say many times is that a lot of these songs, the reason they're so great is because they tell their own story, and you can just listen to them as songs, not just part of the show. Now, yes, like I said, I want you guys to listen to the whole soundtrack. I think it's worth listening to the entire thing, but a lot of these songs do stick out on their own, and this is definitely one of those songs where it does tell its own story. It's a very well done song, leading us right into the story tonight, where we see him, you know, commanding all these men, saying, I don't know if I'm going to live for that long or whatever, but I'm going to try to do all these things. Very well done song. Love the way that's done. But then we get to the Schuyler sisters, which is just a perfect introduction to these characters. You know, we get, you know, Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy, and it's great. We find out who they are. We find out how drastically different they are from each other, and I think it's just a great introduction to those characters. I love the way that's done. Definitely would recommend that one. But then we get to why I think is the most, you know, well-known song from the show, and the song I think that gets in everyone's head, and that is You'll Be Back. And it totally deserves all the acclaim and all of the, you know, listens that it's gotten, because it's such a great song. And this something I love about You'll Be Back is that it's so tonally different from the rest of the show. You know, the whole show is like rap, kind of like, you know, very contemporary music, and this isn't like that at all. This is very much a regular Broadway song, and it's just great. And I remember I first listened to it, I'm like, oh, that's a really sweet love song. But then I realized that King George was talking about murder and guns and things like that, and I realized how fucking hilarious that is. I mean, Jonathan Groff just kills it in this role. He is the perfect King George. Now, whether it's him or Brian Darcy James, I think they're both fantastic. I have seen Brian Darcy James' version. It's just as good. They all do a great job with this, and it's just a really fun performance. I mean, especially in a show that's really dark. I mean, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, it's a dark show, but there are some very lighthearted moments, and this is definitely one of them. I think he does a great job in this role. He's a great villain, and it's just hilarious. It really is hilarious. I love it. It's one of the best songs in the show, and definitely, if I had to make, like I said, you know, a highlight list, this would definitely be on there. It's amazing. I love it, and totally deserves all the listens it got. For a while, I'm not going to lie, you guys, when I listened to the soundtrack, that was one of the only ones I listened to, because I'm like, I just love this, or the other songs is good, and they were, you know, I had no idea how good the other songs were, because there are songs that are way better than this, definitely. Not saying this is a bad song, it's a great song, but there are just so many other great songs here that it is hard to really rank them. I mean, I have two that really do stand out to me the most. I'll get to those, but this is a great song. I love it. It's fantastic. But then we get to Right Hand Man, which I love this song. It's like 6 minutes long, but it's so well done. Basically, this is when, you know, Hamilton's offered the job. He's gaining the respect of Washington. He's basically offered a spot in Washington's army, because this is before Washington was president. This is when he was General Washington. I love the way it's done. Such a great song. The production here is so well done. I love everything about it. And it's just it starts off really slow. The rapping here. And the thing about the rapping is the passion. You really see the passion in all these songs. You see, you know, the emotion behind it. And they're really just telling a really great story. And that's something I think that rappers do really well, is great rappers tell great stories. And this is what they're doing. Rapping is like talking. They're rapping a story, and I think they did that really well. You really do see that here, and I really do love this song overall. Really great stuff, and Right Hand Man is really great. But then we get into what is by far one of the biggest highlights, and one of the songs I would definitely recommend to you, which is Satisfied. I mean, this song is incredible. I love everything about it. When I first heard this, I was in awe. I immediately kept listening to it over and over again. I've grown obsessed with this song. It's one of the songs that out of the soundtrack I constantly am replaying, and there's a big reason why Renee Elise Goldberry, I think that's her name, Renee Elise Goldberry, is that it? I think that's what it is. Let me just check, because I don't want to say her name right. Yeah, Renee Elise Goldberry. There's a reason why she's nominated for a Tony, and I think this song is why. I mean, she is fantastic. Now, a lot of people have compared this song to On My Own, Said Monday on My Own. In fact, a lot of people compared Hamilton to Les Mis, and honestly, I think it's a fair comparison. They're not too far off from each other. Think about it. Les Mis and Hamilton are both telling very big stories, spanned over many different decades, about one man with many other characters, and there are many different emotions you get out of that show, and that's very much with Hamilton. You know, Les Mis is solely focused on Jean Valjean, but it does focus on the other character just as much, like Hamilton does with the other characters. And the other thing great here is that Angelica's facing a very similar situation that Eponine is facing. The difference is Eliza's her sister, and not just someone that she knew as a child. Eliza's her sister. She wants Eliza to be happy with Hamilton. She wants Hamilton to be with her, but he wants to be with Eliza, and she kind of, you know, you can tell that she is happy about that, but at the same time, she's never satisfied because she wants to be with Hamilton. It's a very good song, just really powerful stuff overall. She really kills it, and you feel bad for her, but you're also really proud of her because she made a very wise decision. You know, this could have gotten really much a love triangle. It doesn't go in that direction at all, because you can tell that while she does love him, she can't really do anything about it. You know, he's with her sister, and you know, she loves her sister, and she wants her sister to be happy, and she wants, you know, and she even says in the song, I know my sister like I know my own mind, she will never find anyone as trusting or as kind, and she knows that that's true. You know, she doesn't want her sister to be with anyone but Hamilton. Hamilton's the best guy for her, and she doesn't think that her sister deserves any better than Hamilton, that Hamilton is the guy for her, and that she, as much as she'd love to be with Hamilton, she can't be. Very sad overall, but such a well-done song. One of my favorites in the show, and one of the ones that I would totally recommend. If I had to make a top 5, this would definitely be there. I listen to it so much, and she just kills it in this song. She's amazing. She doesn't have too many songs in the show, but this is the reason why I think she's nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and why I think she should win Best Supporting Actress, because she is Best Featured. I mean, she is incredible. She really does a great job, and she absolutely slays it in this song. I love it. But then we get to Wait for It, which is a really great song from Leslie Odom Jr. Any song that Leslie Odom Jr. has, because Aaron Burr does narrate the story, and a big part of this show is the conflict and friendship between Burr and Hamilton, how that eventually turns into a conflict. Love the way that's done. I don't really know the story, because like I said, I haven't seen it, but I think the way that they did this, I thought was very well done. I really enjoy, any song that he has is great. They just did a 360 performance of the song. It's so cool. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But any song that Leslie Odom Jr. has, he slays it. I've loved him since Smash. He kills it here. It's great to see him have a show like this. I think he really kills in any song he has. And then That Would Be Enough is a great love song for Eliza and Hamilton. You can tell that even though they both have their faults, and even though they're not perfect, they love each other, they want to be with each other. It's just really sweet, and I really love them overall. Definitely recommend that one. And then the next one I recommend is the Act 1 finale, Nonstop. It's such a well-done song, because this is directly after the war. Already things aren't going well for Hamilton. You can definitely tell that things are definitely going to change in the sense of Eliza being concerned about him. You definitely see that. It's 6 minutes long, but it's so well done, and it's just another one of those songs just builds and builds, and a lot of them really do that. I mean, even though they are, one big story, they really do build and build, and I really do love that. Eliza's kind of helpless here. I mean, that's kind of her story, that she's helpless. I mean, as introduced in her song, she is helpless. I forgot to say, Satisfied and Helpless are kind of the same song, where Helpless is from Eliza's perspective, and Satisfied is from Angelica's perspective. It's the same scene done twice, and it's really well done the way they did that. I absolutely love that. But back to Nonstop. There's so much going on in this song. Too much for me to explain, because this video will be 40 minutes long if I do, but, it'd take me, a solid, 7 minutes just to explain everything that's going on here, but everything is great. Hamilton is chosen as a delegate for the Constitutional Convention. He enlists James Madison and John Jay to write the Federalist Papers after Burr refuses. How Burr doesn't think the Constitution is a good thing and everything. I think it's really interesting. I love the way it's done. Everything going on here, it's just such a great Act 1 finale. And then we get to another one of my favorite songs on the show that I instantly fell in love with, which is What I Miss. I love this song. It starts off as your typical rap song, but then kind of turns to a country song. It's really cool the way it's done. It's pretty much, this is when Washington has been away for 4 years. He has been primarily an ambassador. Basically, he's been an ambassador for, for the Articles of Confederation, which I think is really interesting, and he's kind of come back. He's realized there's a lot of things he's missed, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of big songs in the show. Christopher, what's his name? Christopher Jackson doesn't have a lot of big songs in the show, but this is definitely one of those big songs that he has. He does a great job. He absolutely kills this song. I think he does a really great job with the song. One of my favorites, and I really do love What I Miss. Great stuff overall. Take a Break is also fantastic. I mean, this is basically Eliza saying take a break from work, because Hamilton is clearly becoming very obsessed with his work. She wants him to kind of focus more on other things, and that leads us into my favorite song in this entire show. If there is any song I could recommend to you, I mean, this is a song you probably haven't heard of as much, but there's a big reason why this is my favorite song on the show, and that is Say No to This. I mean, here's the thing. I had a conversation with my friend, because my friend and I, he's actually the one that made me love Hamilton even more. He told me all these songs I need to listen to, and he said, the female singer in Say No, this is amazing. And yeah, she is, but that's not, and she is incredible. And also the girl who sings Say No, this is also the girl who played Peggy for the Schuyler Sisters, and it's so well done how drastically different those two are, because basically the story here is that Hamilton, he's by himself, he meets this girl, Mariah Reynolds, who seems very down, and obviously is going through a lot, and he ends up having an affair. And this whole song is how he doesn't really want to, in his mind he's thinking no, but in the song, he's saying say no to this, but he just gives in because he feels so bad for her. And then he realizes that she is married to John Reynolds of all people, because she did not say, her last name, and she's married to John Reynolds, and this freaks, and this really gets him angry and everything, and basically, there's this whole sex scandal going on, but it's such a well-done story. It perfectly shows why someone would cheat, and how they, as much as they want to say no, they have to give in, and they just can't say no. It's such a well-done song. It's not necessarily condoning what Hamilton is doing, but it's showing that he was very flawed, and that he wasn't perfect, and that while he was a really good guy, he did do some bad things. They do a very good job of showing the good and bad things he did. I really love everything about Say No to This, and also, there's a great little little reference the last 5 years at the end that I'm not going to spoil, but it's so well done. The first time I heard it, I loved it, and out of all the songs, this is the one I listen to the most. I mean, between the chorus of "Say No to This" and Lin-Manuel Miranda's vocals, I think this is probably the best vocal song from Lin-Manuel Miranda, because I think we'll all agree he doesn't have the greatest singing voice. He's definitely more of a rapper, but his voice in here is incredible. And the girl that plays Mariah Reynolds, I mean, she just slays it. She is incredible. She also sounds like this girl from my high school, but she also is, she's really talented, and so is this girl. She is fantastic. I love this song. Everything about it, it's amazing. If there's any song I can recommend to you, because also it's telling its own story. It's completely different from everything else that's going on. It's about him having this affair, and it doesn't seem like a big deal now, but it eventually becomes a much bigger deal when you get to other songs. Love the way this is done. Amazing stuff. Out of any song I can recommend, Say No to This, definitely listen to it because it's amazing. And then we get to The Room When It Happens, which is probably Burr's best song. I think Leslie Odom Jr. just slays it in this song. How he's trying to kind of figure out what's going on with Hamilton. Why is he playing such a big role? Why is Burr kind of getting shut out? And that's a really interesting story. The way that Hamilton got all this stuff and Burr really got nothing, I think is really well done. I love it overall, and how he really kind of wants to recount, he feels like there's something else going on and he doesn't know why, and it's so well done. I love the way that song is done. It's like 5 minutes long, but songs are 5 minutes in the show, they feel like 2 minutes. It's so well done. I love it, and another great song. I mean, there's so many songs I could recommend to you guys, but that definitely is one of the ones. Washington on Your Side sounds so good. I love the way that song is done. Daveed Diggs just kills it there. Daveed Diggs was actually a rapper, if you guys didn't know that. Like, he was a professional rapper before he did Broadway, so that's really cool. And then One Last Time, I love this song. I mean, this is another song my friend introduced me to. I love everything about this song. One Last Time is amazing. I love this song so much, mainly because of not just the vocals, but also the story here. Washington, pretty much, he no longer is going to be, Washington's no longer running for president. Jefferson resigned as well, and it's really making him remember that they're gonna have a different president, and that Washington isn't always gonna be the president. This kind of starts, who's gonna be the next president, and then we realize John Adams is gonna be. It's such a well done song. It's such a good goodbye to Washington and to Hamilton. Then the background when we hear that poem or whatever he's reading, so well done. I love the way it's done. It's a very melancholy song, but I love it overall. I think it's amazing. And then I Know Him, again, a great song from King George. There's also What Comes Next, which is great as well. But any reprise from King George, just that enough is an automatic favorite, because, like I said, Jonathan Groff just kills it in that role. And then the Adams administration, when basically that's where Hamilton fucks up. He calls John Adams a fat motherfucker and everything, and he really ruins his reputation. But then we get to, I think, the best solo performance from Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now, I said, this is his best song vocally. Definitely not. Hurricane is his best song vocally. I mean, this song is amazing. It's about him, talking about all the thing he went through. He wrote his way out. He wrote down everything he went through as kind of like a coping mechanism. So well done. It's 2 minutes long. I know I keep saying so well done, but all of them are so well done. And again, it tells its own story. I love it. Amazing stuff. He just kills it here. And then Burn, really the big song from Eliza is Burn. This is when she discovers the sex scandal. She kind of leaves Hamilton. She doesn't really trust him as much, and it's really sad. You feel bad for the relationship. You don't want it to crumble, but unfortunately, he just did too many things, and she gave him so many chances. You can only give him so many chances, and basically, that's what she decides to do. She erases herself from a narrative and everything. She wants to, make it seem like she had no, she wants to destroy Hamilton's chance of being redeemed by future historians, and basically she's trying to ruin him, which is crazy, but you kind of understand what's going on. His reputation is ruined. She's realizing all these things he did, and she's realizing she really can't trust him, and basically she's going to go against him. You kind of understand why that's going. Very well done, and you also kind of do feel bad for her, though. It's not completely, you understand why she's doing this, and definitely I think that's really well done. And then we get to Blow Us All Away, which is years later when Philip, basically, he's graduated from a college and everything, and he challenges this man to a duel, and unfortunately he ends up getting shot very badly, and he's taken to the hospital for this song Stay Alive, and it's so sad because he loses his son. His son dies, spoiler alert, and it's so sad to listen to, but it's so well done. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda just really portrays that emotion so well here, and I love that song. I think it's really good overall. And then the last ones I can recommend, I mean, the last few songs are great, but The World Was Winding Up is such a good showdown between Burr and Hamilton because they all put in their points, how Hamilton wanted to say a few things. He knows he's going to die in the song. He knows he's not going to make it out of here, and how Burr thinks he's getting something out of this. But then, of course, we know Burr got nothing out of this. In fact, this haunted Burr for the rest of his life, and we find that out in this song. I love everything about it. That song is incredible. And then the last song of this show, holy shit. I mean, Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. Things do not get more deeper than Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, because that song is not just talking about who tells Hamilton's story. You know, it's not just about that, because Eliza continues to tell his story. She continues to talk about the legend and everything, but then she dies. The song's about, after you die, who's going to tell your story? Are you going to be famous? How are you going to be remembered? And it's so deep, and the fact that the show just gets into such a touchy subject like this is so well done. I love it. You know, it's so well realized as well. You understand really what they're trying to say, that this is just one story. Hamilton isn't just a story of Alexander Hamilton. It's the story about a man whose legacy has been told from generation to generation. And it's kind of like you know, when you die, how are you going to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? Who's going to tell your story? Can you really control that? It's such a very chilling song, but it's also such a satisfying song because we feel like we really heard the story from him, and now it's relating to us, and we get the point of why we heard this story. I love it overall. Such a great ending. The harmonies here are incredible, especially Philippa, however you pronounce it, Philippa Sosa. She sounds incredible. Sousa, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but she's incredible here. She does a great job, and it's a great way to end things. So those are really all the songs I recommend. I know I could go on all day. The soundtrack is just amazing. There's so many great songs I could talk about for you guys to listen to, but it's Hamilton. I mean, what do you expect me to say? They're all fantastic. Everything that's needs to been said has been said. And of course, you can't see the show until like 2018, so I can't even talk about the show really. I mean, I eventually do want to see the show on Broadway, but this is the next best thing, is that I have this soundtrack. I've listened to it so many times, and I've listened to it more and more, you know, especially for this. I want to listen to it as much as possible, and the more I love it, the more I listen to it, the more I love it. It's definitely a great sound. It's one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a long time. It's one of the best soundtracks I think that's come out in the last 5 years. I really do love everything about the soundtrack. I encourage you guys to listen to it, and absolutely, it's getting tons of awards tomorrow. Yes, it is getting tons of awards. But don't look at that as it's just going to get tons of awards. Don't just look at it that way, because Hamilton is a great show and it deserves those awards that it's going to get. It's so different. The reason that I think the show is so well, you know, such a big phenomenon, and why it's so well acclaimed, is because it's entirely Lin-Manuel Miranda's version. It's not anything else. It's entirely what he wanted to be, and that's why it's so great. Why In the Heights as well was entirely his vision, and that is the person that needs to win. If anyone wins tomorrow night, it needs to be Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'll talk about this in my nominations, but he needs to win. If anything, he needs to be the one to win. He needs to get that award, because if he doesn't, I don't know what I'm going to do. He needs to win. Okay, if he does not win, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm probably going to throw a huge fit if he does not win, because the show is entirely his vision. The show would not be nearly as good if it wouldn't have been for him, and he is the reason why everything turned out as good as it did. But overall, guys, that's all I can say about the soundtrack of Hamilton. I've said enough that I need to say. I've basically said everything you need to hear. I want to talk a lot more about the show, but I think everything's been said. I don't want to go on for a while, but things have already been said. You know, when the show comes out, I'll definitely, when I can eventually see the show, then I can give you a more thorough review. But for right now, you know, this is the best thing I got. I'm really hoping the show wins Best Musical. I mean, if it doesn't, then Waitress, definitely. But you know, I've really loved listening to all these Tony soundtracks. Such great music this year. Really great shows. There hasn't been a single show I have disliked. There really is no show that I'm like, oh, I don't want that to get anything. I mean, I think, like I said, School Rock, I think, is going to end up getting nothing. Even that show, it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. This show, though, is going to get a lot. I think it's definitely going to get a lot. But who knows? Maybe it won't. I mean, we'll really have to see what happens tomorrow night. But overall, guys, really looking forward to the Tonys. Definitely look forward to, I'm going to put up my nominations. And, of course, my live stream will be up tomorrow as well. So look forward to those. Let me know what you guys saw of the soundtrack. I mean, do I even need to ask you? I'm pretty sure I know what you guys think of the soundtrack. But if you haven't listened to Hamilton, get on it. What the fuck are you doing? Go listen to Hamilton. If you've been under a rock, go listen to Hamilton. Get on Apple Music. Do what you have to do. It's an amazing soundtrack. I mean, it's definitely worth your time. And even if you don't like rap, I think you'll enjoy it, because it just is telling a great story. It's entirely one man's vision, and it's so well done. Even though it's so high production, it's also very low-key, and that's one of the reasons I really do love it. But definitely, if you guys haven't listened to Hamilton, check it out. And we'll see you guys at my next, which will be for Wayward Pines. I know you guys have been waiting and waiting for Wayward Pines. It'll be my next review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.